So I have Lana Goes Art here today, and we're going to talk about her journey with color, why she got into this, and stuff of that nature. So, why don't you give us a brief interview or brief intro to who you are?
Hello, I'm Lana, and yeah, I run the YouTube channel, a small one with Lana Goes Art. I paint passionately with watercolors, and from my collection grew a watercolor database, sunandcolors.com, where I test colors for light fastness and nerd around about pigments a lot. Yeah.
Awesome. So, what started you on this journey?
Oh, curiosity. Honestly, curiosity. Um, I was okay. I was painting like all my life, and I did a lot of pencil drawings when I was a teen. I painted a lot with acrylics, and after university, I felt like the urge to create again. And that's when I was looking for something because back then I was also traveling a lot for something that is kind of compact that I can take with me on the go, that I can travel with without taking an extra suitcase full of supplies. And watercolors seem to be the issue, like the medium for me to make this available and able. My mother painted with watercolors like from my childhood, and I knew the medium. I just didn't like it a lot. And I didn't know why back then. But when I started painting again, I got into the watercolors. I really like the flow. I love how the paints behave. And because, with my background in it's not chemistry, but in sciences, I was curious about why colors behave differently. Like why some granulate and some don't, and why some have a nice flow and others don't, and why some are more transparent and others aren't. So I was looking into pigments and pigment properties and light fastness and all these things. And that kind of opened to me a new world full of nerdy pigment info, but also it opened to me a better understanding of how to use paints and pure curiosity. And I feel like it's such a key. I will show you a little bit in my sketchbook with the color studies, where I went on a journey looking through them. And wait, sorry. And just basically discovering the properties and also being able to show them to others. So this is another thing that I'm very passionate about is basically transforming the knowledge I find or the information I collect into something that is usable to others. So I make these pages, which I can show you here, also in the other cam, where I make swatches, where I test them on black paper, where I mix with them a lot. So we can all together basically look into these properties. And for me, this was, well, for once, I was very curious. I wanted to collect this information for myself to be able to um, basically foresee the results. Like I'm able to consciously choose the colors with the properties that I want to achieve a certain effect that I want in my paintings, which I think is a big, big thing that when you paint, not everything is kind of a surprise and you don't know where things are coming from or why things are happening. And on the other hand, I I'm very motivated by the idea that this is such cool knowledge that I can also make available to others. Yeah, so this is how it started and how it's going, and this is my biggest motivator, honestly. And here we have some examples of like colors that are granulating, that are separating in the others, and how they interact with other colors, and like create effects. And I think it's a nice overview. And it's just examples of what I do. Um, I hope it's useful.
Have you found this to be difficult or overly complex at all?
For me personally, I don't think it's complex. Um, but maybe because I'm used to uh, research things and put things into categories and then being able to choose whatever I need in the form of information. So for me, this feels easy. Like basically I do with colors or pigments, whatever I did with other information that I before, you know? It's the same tasks with the different medium.
Hmm.
I think my brain is just trained to do that by now.
Yeah.
So, but I can see how it could be difficult for others, maybe.
Yeah, it's one of those things of a lot of people, especially in the areas that I'm in, people will constantly say it's super complicated and go off on these long tangents about how they can't learn it because it's too complicated or it's too complex, so they just want to ignore it, especially when learning your pigments.
Um, I can see that. I can see that. Um, I feel maybe the combination of being creative and having painted all my life, so basically knowing the techniques, but on the other hand, being trained in science and many languages, um, maybe that's kind of a combination of tasks that my brain is used to do. Because learning pigments is a little bit like learning vocabulary if you learn a language. You know, words have meaning that is associated to them. So you don't learn like PO73. You learn, um, I don't know, like the verb going, and you know the present tense and the past tense, and then you learn the variations of it, you know, and here you learn, okay, this is the pigment orange 73, and it has these properties that are assigned to it, you know. It's different, but I feel like if you are trained to learn certain information, it's easy to learn. But also, I'm not learning it like I'm learning a language, which is much more tedious, let's be honest. I learn it by using them. So some pigments you just know because they're basically in every palette. Most of the palettes come with phthalo blue. So with time, you will know phthalo blue is in most brands PB15:3. And you know that PB15:3 is a pigment that is a cool blue. So it's leaning a little bit greenish. Um, that is transparent, that is staining. And by using it, you will know it. You will, you even without knowing the pigment, when you use it, you will be able to see the difference between phthalo blue and, let's say, the other blue that comes in every palette, ultramarine, which is a warmer blue that is leaning a little bit more reddish and is granulating in most brands bought Schminke Horadam with the ultramarine finest. So you will know that. You will know that ultramarine is easier to lift, and you will learn that and observe that, hopefully, when you paint and you try these techniques. And with one of the blues, they work, and with the other, they don't. And with time, you will remember, oh, this time I want to lift. So I should not use phthalo blue this time because this will make my work so much harder, right? So I feel like learning pigments, if you're curious about them, will also happen basically on the go when you paint. If you pay attention to what colors or what pigments are you using currently, and then you will, during the painting process, observe what they do and what you're able to do with them. And next time you will maybe choose something that fits the techniques a little bit more if you struggled the first time. Or if you don't like granulation, maybe choose, this is a mix with manganese blue, PB33. So maybe you will not choose to mix with manganese blue because you know, okay, this is not the smooth mix you want. But maybe you want this mix and then you will not choose like phthalo blue because it will give you a much smoother mix, which I have here, by the way. um, so you will able to consciously decide what to choose from your observations. Even without knowing the pigments, if you know the paints in your color in your palette and what they do and what properties they have from observing them, from using them, from painting with them, you will still have knowledge and you can build on that, you know.
Yeah.
It's I feel like painting is just the basis. Like you need to paint because if you observe how paints behave firsthand, it's a great start to then learn about pigments and then assign the pigment numbers to the behavior of the paints that you use. If that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense to me. Because there's so
So,
much to do with pigments that it just,
yeah,
I find it fascinating. Especially when we get into watercolor stuff, because with acrylics, you don't see the granulation, you don't see the nuances of a pigment like that. But with watercolor, you're seeing those fine nuances that you don't see anywhere else.
that's
And
true.
yeah,
That's true.
like
And that's super fascinating to me too. I
yeah,
think that's why I was stuck with watercolors. I don't feel I told you that I was painting with acrylics before, and I don't even feel like the need to go back to acrylics. I don't have any acrylics right now at all because I'm painting with mostly watercolors. I do also paint with gouache to be fair, but I really really like that you can see all pigment properties, how I call them, when you paint. Like they show their character and colors that are mixed from several pigments. They show their character. They can separate, or maybe they don't. And I think that's something beautiful, and you can achieve effects and looks that you cannot achieve with any other medium.
yeah,
It's the magic of watercolor.
yeah. Watercolors have always interested me. I'm a trained oil painter, so um, I watercolors intimidate me a lot. They intimidate a
Oh,
lot of painters a lot too. To be fair,
yeah.
because they're, how should I put it? They're the easiest to learn, but the hardest to master.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm not sure if I mastered them. I'm pretty sure that I can improve a lot still.
Yeah.
so, but yeah, it's correct. They're also, let's be real, they're also a great entry level paint. They're not super expensive to get, and the palette will bring you a long way. They're not used up as quickly as oils or acrylics.
Yeah.
And on top of just the medium, I feel in watercolor you have to be aware and maybe be prepared to not only use the paint, but to learn to control water and your brush. Because I feel in other mediums, the combination of paper, brush, and paint don't matter as much as in watercolors. In watercolors, you can see the difference of the paper you use, like whether it's cotton or cellulose, and whether it's sized or not. You can feel the difference. The water will behave differently, will flow differently. The paint will sit differently on the paper. If your paper is a little bit like warmer in hue or cooler in hue, or maybe a little bit gray, the paints will look differently because the paper shines through your painting. There's no white used here, for example, and you leave the white of the paper, and depending on that, of course, the experience is different. Your techniques have to adjust, and the brushes, some hold a lot of water, some hold no water at all, and some have a great tip, and others are very, very flimsy and don't hold a tip. So you have to choose supplies that fit your needs. And I feel this is very difficult if you don't know what your needs are, especially for beginners. Like, you don't know what you want, and you don't know what, like, how it should feel, and you don't know how to achieve things. And I feel it's very difficult for beginners also to choose supplies that will then work for you basically. I think it's very individual how people paint and what they need and what they want. And I feel it's, if you don't know these things, it's also not different, difficult to communicate this. Like, if you don't know whether you like to paint more loose or more detailed, like if you have not experienced that, you don't know what kind of brushes would fit you best, or what kind of paper. I'm very particular about my paper because I want, like, I like cold press paper, but not all cold press paper. Some feels too rough for me, and I feel like it catches onto the brush, like it holds onto the brush too much, which is so specific. I'm not sure many people even think about that, but it is so specific that I am sometimes upset about papers that do that. So the papers I choose are still sized, are still cold pressed, but maybe the surface is not as, I don't know, Velcro. Even how to explain this, but it's a feeling that I have during painting, and I feel this. I feel like this feeling matters because if you don't enjoy to paint, like, why bother? And I feel in watercolor this is more important because I've seen oil painters who have like the dirtiest, oldest brushes that are almost falling apart, and they're like, yeah, it's still good enough for blending. I can work with those. And watercolors, you would be like, yeah, it's a nice texture brush. Maybe you need something that will work for the techniques you want to do. Um, I feel in watercolors, these things just matter more, like the supplies that you choose. I don't want to say something is bad or good or these categories, but I feel like to choose something that fits the painter is maybe a little bit more difficult than grabbing any brush and just starting to paint or any color that is, I don't know, red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Well, that I'm just staring at the Yintico right now and just like
Sorry.
I
It's a
it,
great page.
yeah, the Yintico I have is from Dirty Blue, so it's actually
Mm-hmm.
different from the one you have. Like it
Yeah.
behaves a little bit differently from what I can see. Yours granulates a little bit more.
Yeah, this is the Schminke one. I sadly don't have the one from Dirty Blue. Um, but great paints. I have his Yinmin Blue somewhere.
Yeah,
But yeah, Yintika I only have from Schminke. And it's granulating a lot. You can see this here in the swatch in the title. And it's really, really nice and beautiful. Um, I think Schminke isn't selling right now anymore. Like it was a limited edition.
yeah.
So it's a
Yintico
great
is such
color.
an yeah, it's such an interesting pigment. I wonder how we'll see the market though, because it mixes on an inverse path towards black instead of
Yeah.
adverse like a quinacridone. So, but it's opaque, which is shocking for a magenta.
It's not that opaque though.
Yeah,
For me, it's also in Schminke. It's labeled as semi-transparent or semi-opaque. Um, it's not like super opaque, as you can see in
yeah,
watercolors. It's also not high tinting. I think honestly, I think that maybe Yintico will not be sold much, at least not in the commercial brands.
yeah.
The
Yinmin is
same
another
as
one.
with Yinmen Blue because of the price, because it's so easy to substitute. Yintico maybe even a little bit more difficult than Yintico more difficult than Yinmen Blue because you can. I had here some tests, and you can mix something very similar. These are a little bit too brown because there's a little bit too much Potter's Pink in there. But basically, with Potter's Pink and any cool red, you can mix something similar and it will be similar enough in behavior. Um, I feel to recreate it as a hue is just too simple to make it super unique.
Yeah,
And also the price. I'm not sure, aside from us nerds, if there are many people who want to pay the price for this pigment. Like
yeah.
it's a special interest paint.
It's definitely one of the things for nerds. Uh,
Yeah, but I'm glad that Schminke released it. I'm not sure Schminke sold a lot of them, but I'm so glad Schminke released it.
uh, we
um,
we know how much Golden sold for Yinmin though.
it wasn't much that golden. Oh,
Yeah,
you mean the price or the amount?
the amount that they sold for
Yeah, it
Yinmin.
wasn't much.
Yeah,
It was like in the low hundreds worldwide.
hmm uh, and I am one of the lucky ones that bought the acrylic one, which is now going for $1,000 a tube on eBay.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm not
I don't have
selling
the
it.
core one. I
But
don't have the core one. I have the Schminke Yinmen one and also two handmade ones. One of them from Dirty Blue. I have Yinmen here somewhere. Wait, give me a second. Here. Of course, I have a page with Yinmen Blue already. And this is Yinmen Blue. It's also beautiful and granulated. I love the color and the hue. Let's be real. I love it. It's kind of, here's, by the way, the swatch with the, wait, here's the swatch from Dirty Blue in the corner here. Um, it's a beautiful granulation. It's a little bit softer than in ultramarine, and I like that it's kind of a little more reddish. I really like the hue a lot, but it also mixes beautifully with all the colors. But as you can see here, it's so easy to replicate without even mixing. This is PB74. It's Cobalt Blue Deep. I think that's the label. But PB74 gives you the exact same hue with a very similar granulation for just a fraction of the price. So if you're not afraid of cobalts, I would suggest just to get that. Like, it economically, it makes more sense. Again, it's a color that's it was fun to play with. I really like it, but yeah, I was happy to get one of these tubes, and I know that Schminke didn't sell many of them either. It was also a limited edition, just like the Yintico. I think they sold worldwide just about the same amount as Core did. This is my guess. I don't have actual numbers.
Yeah, it was just too expensive for most people.
Yeah, which I mean is fair. It's I think I paid like 30 euros per 5 milliliter tube for each of them. Um, Especially if you paint a lot and you need to refill your pencil from time to time. I feel like there are options that are maybe more economic. Like this tube of the Cobalt one, I think it's like 17 euros max for a 15 milliliter tube. So the price difference just is big enough to decide differently. But again, I mean, my decision to purchase these, just as yours probably, are not because of like what is cheaper or what do I want to paint with, but also based on curiosity. This is a new pigment. Yintico is a new pigment. I want to see it. I want to experience it. I want to nerd around with it. I want to put it into my database and make these nice spreads that I share with people so people can make decisions based on maybe more knowledge than, ooh, this is new and shiny. Um, so this is my goal. And I feel like this justifies the price for me personally, to experiment with those colors. But I don't have them in my personal palette to paint with. I'm honest there. Although I like the hue, I like the color. Beautiful one.
Yeah. You know what? Speaking of, what is your personal palette?
Ooh, my personal palette is beautiful. Um, I have several. I have several palettes that I like to work with. My main palette is Schminke Horadam. I can show you. Sorry if you have sounds in the background. It's a big one. It's a big one. And honestly, I think it's too big to to carry around. It's my studio palette. It's not one I use on the go. And it has colors I like a lot. It has no cadmium yellow because it's one of the colors I don't like. Because I don't like how it mixes. This was basically for me the revelation. Like, okay, I need to learn more about pigments. Was when I learned that the reason why I didn't like watercolors as a teen was because of cadmium yellow and how it mixed. And when I learned there are nicer yellows out there for me, that mix so much more beautifully for me, like for my sense of aesthetics. I was like, okay, I need to learn more about pigments so I don't make bad decisions, and I'm happy with the results I create. And yeah, so I have a lot of earth tones in my palette. I don't think people need them specifically because I use them because I paint a lot of animals. That's the reason I don't like blue as a color, but I apparently like blues in my palettes a lot. A few yellows. My key yellow is lemon yellow, PY3 I do like, and PY 150. The yellows I use the most. I like to have mainly cool reds. I have one warm red, which is Gerano red, PR 242 in my palette, and the others are warmer reds. Ruby red is my personal favorite primary red. It's not as cool as some people like the magenta to be, but I kind of like how it mixes more. My favorite primary blue is Helio Turquoise. It's PB16 in Schminke. It's beautiful. It's also a little bit cooler than most people like their primary blue to be. Many choose phthalo blue, which is this one. Perfectly fine, perfectly reasonable. I just like this combination with the transparent yellow much more because the purple I create will be slightly more muted, but I don't care about that a lot. But the other secondary colors will be so nice and bright when I mix with them. So that's totally fine. I like a variation of greens. I really like green gold in my palette. It's beautiful. Cobalt turquoise, I like. Whether it's PB50 or PB28, PG50, sorry, PG50 or PB28. I'm not super particular about this, but it's such a nice, beautiful, granulating turquoise. Great color to paint with. And yeah, I have no black. I do have neutral gray that I rarely use. I think it's leftover from the very beginning. Yeah. Some of the colors are Daniel Smith, like Java Pie Genuine. I use it rarely, but it's very beautiful.
Yeah. Uh,
Ah,
gorgeous palette.
thank you.
It is very large.
It is very large. I can show you some smaller ones that I really
Yeah.
enjoy. I really like small palettes too. Oh my god, I have something fun to show. I created, it's just, it's still drying, my perfect primary palette. And these are empty Gansai Tambi paint pans that I've reused. And these are filled with a whole tube of 50 milliliter paint. And this is actually Schminke transparent yellow, PY 150, ruby red, PV19, and helio turquoise, PV16. I'm super happy to, they have magnets on the bottom, and I'm super happy to be able to bring them somewhere. Like they're beautiful and big, and I'm very happy to use this. So if I had to have to reduce my palette to only 3 colors, I think this would be it, and I'm able to mix anything I want from them. So and another, this is a Christmas gift. I have not shown it anywhere. I got, because I like tiny palettes, this is more handy than the big one, of course. And this has the Daniel Smith introductory set inside. So I'm happy. This will be fully functional. As a beginner set, as pro set. Every color more than, oh, the basics. This can happen. It's not, it's okay. It's not bad. Um, every color more than basics. I mean, you can mix anything. As a painter, you know yourself, you can mix anything. And everything beyond the primaries is just addition and nice to have. So on the go, I'm happy with small sets. I'm very curious to bring this along. Right now it's freezing outside, so I'm not painting outside, but I can't wait to paint outside again.
Yeah.
So While my studio palette is a big one, the palettes I often use on the go are actually smaller ones.
I had one more question, but I forgot what it was. um, yeah, let's just make it up on the spot. What is
Yeah.
what is your favorite watercolor brand? Since I do have lot of watercolor people on my channel.
Oh my God.
Shockingly, despite not being a watercolor channel.
I think watercolor people are maybe most nerdy about pigments because for them the properties matter much more than for others. So they're
Yeah,
more curious. They can observe it when they paint, and I think that's why they're more curious about pigments maybe. Like your warm red is not automatically warm red. You will know why your warm red is either transparent or opaque, depending on the brand you got, because you know, and then you will ask yourself, why is this happening? Why is my cool yellow, the cadmium lemon yellow, mixing this way, and then you get the lemon yellow, and it mixes a different way. But when you just paint it pure on paper, they look very similar. Like, why is this happening? And I think if you observe this, you are more likely to be more curious about pigments and what's inside the paint and why they behave how they behave than when they mix very similar, because they're opaque, because they're bound in a binder that prevents these properties from showing, you know. But yeah, sorry. Back to the question, what is my favorite brand? This is such a dangerous question to ask. um, for the database I have tested many brands, and I have a huge collection, you know that. I do reviews regularly on YouTube, but also on Twitch, and I show off paints more often than not. I think that if you buy professional paints, the quality is so close to each other that it doesn't really matter. I feel like you can get the same results with Daniel Smith and Core and Da Vinci and Schminke and Sennelier and Mijello Mission Gold and with Rembrandt and Winsor Newton and Rosa Gallery. Sorry. But, you know, there's so many brands, and if they are professional quality, the quality differences are very, very marginal. Like, they can have different behavior based on the binder solution that the brands use. Like, Core will flow a little bit more, maybe, than other brands because of Aquazole. And it might matter if you depend on that, but it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't mean that the other brands don't flow. They will still have a flow, like Schminke has a flow and Sennelier has a flow. It just maybe a smidge less. You can still, and if you like to control, it doesn't matter that you cannot control Core because it has more flow because of the Aquazole. You can still control Core if you like to. You have to adjust a tiny bit, and it's not a huge adjustment, I feel, from painting with all these brands. I can switch from one to the other with no issue and almost no adjustment from testing them. I think the difference that you see is using different pigments. So if you, for example, and I think that's something I've seen in some reviews. If you compare brands and you compare ultramarine from one brand and phthalo blue from the other brand, and I say, well, this color is more transparent because it's from this brand. Yeah, it's not, because it's the property of the pigment. If you want to compare them, you have to compare the same pigment in different brands.
Yeah. I like to compare
Uh,
cobalts personally because it's a sign of quality a lot of the time since it's an expensive pigment.
yeah. I also like to compare transparent pigments to see whether they're the same transparency or you see like some residues in them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially on black, you will see this a lot.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, pigments, also made from different pigment providers. I don't know how they're called, but so the pigments also can have slightly different properties, like have a slightly different hue. I don't think it's better or worse. You might like the version from one brand more because it has a hue you like best, but it doesn't mean like it's better brand per se. And I also advocate for to look for like at your location, so where you are, because most often it's, first of all, it's paints that are probably easier to to get somewhere, that you don't have to ship across the world, which we do. We are curious. It's okay. It happens. But if you set up a palette and start out, maybe look at the professional brand that is maybe local to you or to your continent at least.
Yeah.
And then expand from there. And then you can look at maybe colors that are available in one brand and not in the other. That also happens. I have some colors too that are made from more than one pigment. Here it was, oh God, like undersea green from Daniel Smith. It's a beautiful color. Is it a must-have in a palette? I would say no. Is it fun to use? Yes, of course. But I mean,
It's also
yeah,
a
but
color you
best
can't get
brand.
anymore.
Hmm?
It's
Yeah,
also
because
yeah. Yeah.
PO48.
Yep.
I have the old version, yeah. Um, it happens. I'm
Yeah.
not precious about it still. I think it's beautiful color. PO48. This is so sad that this one got discontinued. Like
Yeah.
PO48 is beautiful. The transparency and this orange autumn glow, like beautiful pigment. That is a sad one. That is a sad one. Oh well.
I have a
We
bunch
will
of it
survive
here
that.
too. Do you,
Yeah, I have a few too.
yeah.
Uh, but I mean, honestly, so but back to the question of what's the best brand. I think what matters more is not to buy the cheapest paints, because if you buy the cheapest paints, they're full of chalk and they will behave differently. You will not see as much of the pigment, if any, because some are made with dyes, and this will likely make people less happy. I think a good starting point are either student grade sets from known companies like Schminke Academy or Winsor Newton Cotman or Van Gogh from Royal Talents. Like those are sets that maybe are not as pigmented as professional paints, but will have pigment properties and are a good starting point. And if you can afford it for the professional ones, but I don't have like, I'm not brand loyal. I don't have a favorite brand. That Schminke is my studio palette is because, well, that's what I started with. And then my Schminke palette grew. I'm located in Germany. It made sense. I also have Lucas that I like a lot. I use Core a lot. I use Roman Schmoll a lot. Like, I don't feel brand loyal. Um, yeah, but about the discontinued pigments, this is so sad. I don't feel like I feel that we don't have to chase after them because change is part of life, and people were able to paint before, and people will be able to paint after without PO48. It's a little bit sad because it's a gorgeous color, but I feel like we will manage and it will be okay. I think it's insane that some tubes like of PO49 quinacridone gold are sold for like hundreds and thousands.
Yeah, and I'm sitting on 2 gallons of it in watercolor.
People will storm your house to rob you of the PO49.
I'm American. I have a rifle.
Oh my god.
Uh,
um, we are Germans. We sleep with our windows open. It's fine.
uh,
um, yeah. But I don't know. I don't think it like there's this feeling of missing out on something. I can see that with pigments. I think because so many are then talking, okay, this is discontinued. This was such a great pigment. You need to try this. And people get this feeling of, I just started and I don't have that. I need that maybe. And I think it's kind of sad and also a little bit misleading because in reality, we don't need that. We need very little in our life and in our art. Maybe it makes sense for you, but there are substitutions. There are colors that are very, very close and behave very, very similar. And yeah, I just want people to have a good feeling when they paint and build their collection and research pigments. Like, I honestly, I feel like many people feel urged to buy more and when watching reviews and things and then you tell, oh, this is such a great set, this color is amazing that I've tried out. And what I do or try to do is like, this is a great set, but you probably don't need it because you probably have a great set at home. So like you have knowledge now, you can make conscious decision. You don't need to buy everything. And I mean, in some cases, I think you were there, or maybe you weren't, where we were looking at pigments. I was like, yeah, this might be a limited edition, but honestly, don't buy it because this will not make you happy. Or maybe it will, but it doesn't make me happy. So why? Um, so it was this color. Well, it was this color. In the other color camera, you can see this better. But it's a mix of 6 pigments. And I was like, why even release that? Why? Does it make sense? I don't know. And this is how the color study started. This one. How the color study started, that we then looked into, okay, but doesn't make sense. Do we need every little limited edition? Or do we just buy because it's a limited edition and it will be gone and we will not have had it?
yeah, I see 6 pigments and I'm just like, what is this? A mini paint? That's too many pigments for a paint.
Yeah. So the thing is, okay, we have figured out why it has six pigments. And okay, this is insanity. This color has 2 whites. It has PV4, PW4, and PW6. both. It has PY42, yellow ochre, PR242, which is geranium red, and then it has PG18 viridian and PG7 phthalo green. PG18 and PG7 both look very, very similar, but PG18 is lower in tinting and granulating, and PG7 is transparent and high tinting and not granulating. We have two whites, which kind of even out these properties a little bit. And then we have yellow ochre and geranium red to mute it down a little bit and shift them slightly yellow, right?
Yeah.
This is the color theory, like the pigment theory behind this. And so we have thought about, as a community, we are nerdy. People are wonderful. I love people who nerd around. So we have thought hard about why a company would add two whites to that pigment. PW4 is a slightly transparent white. PW6 is titanium white. It's more opaque, cooler white. The other one is a little bit warmer. So, and it's probably a mix of two colors. I think something like Naples yellow, which has a white and the white, the yellow ochre, and the geranium red in it. And then Schminke has a green that is a mix of PG18 and PG7, probably to have a high tinting green of that hue with granulation. So basically combine the properties of these two greens that have, they look very similar aside from these properties. And maybe those two ready to go colors were mixed together, all in all combining into 6 pigments. And then, because I'm nerdy, I made a test somewhere and tried to mix this hue, and I was able to achieve it with, I think, 2 or 3 mixes. It was way less than 6. Because I was curious whether I can. I cannot find it. I have a swatch of it somewhere. Because I was like, this does not feel like it's necessary. I cannot find it, I'm sorry. But I was like, maybe it's in a different sketchbook. But this is part of the curiosity, part of playing around and just like the discovery of, is it necessary? Why are we doing these things? And how can I achieve this without using 6 pigments? Because, oh my god, 6 pigments. Who does that? I'm sorry, I cannot find.
Uh, I mean, I
I
can
wish I
name a
would.
few brands, but they're not watercolors. They're all acrylics.
Oh, Daniel Smith also has like the black made of 6 or 8 pigments or whatever, and I'm not sure why. Well, maybe a reason is to use up leftover pigment or something. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's what a lot of things like torrent gray are. It's just leftover pigment.
Yeah, but I mean, Schminke has the random gray, for example. By the way, beautiful color. I really like it from monochromatic studies. And they don't even list pigments. If they use whatever, I'm fine with it. I think it's a nice way to, I don't know, recycle pigments, use them. It's great, but do we need to create colors with so many pigments just for the sake of it? I don't know.
Yeah, that convenience colors tend to be either a interesting subject or a how should I put it? A nuisance to me.
Yeah.
I really love
Um,
single pigments after all.
yeah, I use some convenience colors. I'm not totally against them.
Yeah,
I
I'm
just
not either.
think because my first way to mix a hue I like when I paint is to mix colors. And I think the biggest issue is that people think if I have many colors, if I have my convenience colors, I just can use them as is without mixing. And I feel like that is when paintings become less harmonious. Because if you don't mix, you don't adjust the values, you don't adjust the hues to make it sense in your painting.
Yeah,
You know, like if you avoid mixing at all, you can't place your bright red somewhere without mixing it somewhere as a point of attention. That's not what I mean. But if you use only burnt umber without mixing it with anything for the tree, and then you have a slightly watered down burnt umber for the lighter areas and slightly darker mass tone burnt umber for the shadows, and then you use sap green for the leaves, the tree will not feel coherent or natural. That like you need to adjust a little bit, put a little bit yellow somewhere, put a little bit blue somewhere for the shadows and yellow for the sunny parts, and it will make the whole tree look a little bit more alive. And I feel too many convenience colors in a palette lead to like the maybe lazy decisions of, oh, I can use it as is and don't need to mix. Well, mixing is actually something beautiful.
yeah, and I'm trying to teach people how to mix. To go off on a little bit of a tangent, but so many people in the hobby I'm in refuse to mix because they think it's too complicated or they claim it's not enjoyable at all when they're painting and they're struggling super hard to get the color that they want because they think they can
Mm,
go out and go buy that one color and then like I don't this is not the color I want, it's too dark, it's too bright, it's too white, it's too desaturated. I'm just like, if you mix your own color you can get that exact color. No, I can't, it's
yeah.
impossible to do it every single time.
No.
Exactly. It's entirely possible to mix your own color the
Yeah.
same way every single time. All you have to do is practice.
Yeah. And but I feel also that there needs to be like an understanding of how colors work. Like not every green is just green. Like not every blue is just blue, but the greenish blue or the reddish blue. And it helps me to kind of imagine a color circle. And then I can, like, in my mind, place the greenish blue somewhere. And I know, okay, opposite of it, it has to be kind of, um, if I have the yellow, red, and blue here, and I have the greenish blue. So the opposite will be like a warm yellow, for example. And I know they will meet somewhere in a gray. And I imagine this like in my mind when there's a color that I'm not 100% sure what um, the complementary color for it would be. I imagine this so I can do the like color math, I call it, to see. But in other cases, it's experience. I know where I get with my palette. I've used it for so many years, almost 10 years more that I've used this palette with almost this exact setup. I know how I get from there to whatever I want to mix.
Yeah.
So I know where to start and how to move it. I had a bet with my art teacher when I was back in school. And so the task was to recreate historical paintings, like the I don't know, there was something from Rembrandt, and there was like the girl with the pearl earring, and other I don't know what there was, like what kind of paintings. I think Picasso was also like he had paintings set up, and I was like, yeah, everyone picks one painting, and then you have to recreate it. And first I chose like a drawing from Rembrandt, I think. It was like charcoal drawing, and I recreated it. I was good at drawing. And he was like, this was too fast. This doesn't count. And I was like, okay. And then he was like, you have to paint the color of the paper too. And I was like, but that wasn't a drawing. Like the artwork wasn't like the stain on paper wasn't part of the artwork. So I argued with them. And then I got a second painting to recreate. Uh, and I got the girl with the pearl earring. And I was like, okay, I can do that. No problem. And he wasn't happy with me. And I was like, I will do this with just the primaries. Who cares? And he was like, there's no way you are able to do that. And I was like, yeah, sure, I can. Like, what's the issue? And I was back with when I painted with acrylics. So I didn't have to pay attention to like pigment properties or anything. I was like, yeah, sure, I can. Like, what's the issue? I can do this with primaries. And he was like, no way you can do this. And I did it. And it took me like a week or two. And we had a certain amount of time to recreate those paintings. And he was like he was not happy that it happened. I recreated it. I got it done. It was good enough. I think I was like 16 back then, so like a teen. My art teacher actually he wasn't happy with me and me painting. He didn't think I will make it, and I shouldn't be in art. He said, but it's fine. And he was like, okay, and I got a good grade on it, and he thought I cheated, but I didn't. I mixed those colors from primaries. It was fine. It can take a little bit longer to mix a brown from just yellow, blue, and red, or whatever your primaries are. It should be yellow, and red, or for classical paintings actually lemon yellow, like a cadmium red and ultramarine works very nicely because they're slightly more muted. If you want bright secondaries, you should use like yellow, magenta, and cyan. But so I did it. I got a good grade. It was well enough, and I didn't want this painting. Like I have no attachment to it. So after I got the grade and things, and the class was over, like I threw it in the trash can because I mean, my teen self was like, "What should I do with that?" Like I painted this, but come on. And he was so shocked. First of all, that I did it, and then it looked nice enough, and he was like, "But you painted this," and I was like, "Yeah, but I mean, it was a difficult relationship with me and my art teacher, but yeah, color theory helps, and it helps to imagine colors, and it helps to know where you get from just your primaries, and it helps to know that you get to the neutrals when you mix all of the three primaries together. If you mix yellow, red, and blue, you will get a brown, and with a little bit more blue, you will get a black. It helps to know that. So if you want a bright yellow, don't mix red and blue into it. Or if you want a bright orange, avoid the bluish colors.
Yeah.
So I feel like, yeah, sorry for rambling.
Oh no, that's good.
But yeah, I feel like learning primaries and learning to imagine the color wheel helps a lot. And just to understand that brown and gray, the neutrals, are a mix of all three primaries, helps a lot to understand how you achieve like the brighter ones, like the brighter mixes.
Uh, that's the reason why I actually go with a split primary palette a lot of the time.
Yeah, I
Which
don't.
it's a larger palette, but I like to mix my teals. I like to mix my purples and stuff like that. I don't want a brownish purple. I want a vibrant purple, which means that I have to use quinacridone magenta.
Yeah, but oh my god, yes, but I mean, ruby red is close to quinacridone magenta, and I use
Yeah.
helio turquoise. And with helio turquoise, you get beautiful teals, and mixed with ruby red, if you use those two, you will get a very nice purple. It's slightly muted, but it's not brown like with the warm red and ultramarine. That's kind of the ugliest purple I've ever seen.
Yeah, really is.
It's so often in books though. Oh my god, it's so often in books. So I basically use CMY most of the time, so it helps to have the secondaries kind of bright still.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the only yellow I personally use is bismuth yellow these days,
Yeah, that's
which
fine.
I love how it mixes. I love its opacity. I love everything about it. It's so much better than cadmium to me.
Yeah, I don't like cadmium yellow. I feel like it mixes um
It's ever
like
so slightly,
murky.
yeah, it's ever
Like
so slightly brown.
yeah, and if you like yeah, I don't know why. I didn't like it as a kid when I used like the professional color watercolors from my mother as a kid or a teenager, and she always had cadmium lemon yellow in her palettes. I was like, why are all the mixes with this yellow so wrong? And I felt back then like my child paints would create so much better mixes with the yellows I had there. Like, and I didn't understood why the better paints would create much uglier mixes with the yellow until I learned that it was all cadmium lemon yellow. I don't like even with the mixed with like blues, it's like murky, it's so heavy. I feel like watercolors lose luminosity. And I know that traditional painters who are maybe an older generation who are trained with cadmium yellow love this. Uh, but I did not learn to love it. I did not learn to love it. And I like PY3 much more. PY3 creates similar mixes, but they don't look as heavy. Like they look much more vivid and light to me. So if I want like a lemon yellow that is not PY 150, which is not lemon yellow, but if I want a primary yellow that is not PY 150, I like to use PY3.
Yeah. If I'm going with a transparent yellow, I'm probably going with like quinapalone, or benzimidazoline. But that's me.
Yeah.
I prefer the higher light fastness of the two. Um, but quinophalone is like near impossible to find. Do you have any quinophalone?
I'm not sure.
If you don't, we'll talk on the side. I have a bunch of it. I have a gallon of it in watercolor.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I don't have a gallon of any color.
I
I buy the tiny tubes.
I make and sell
Well,
watercolors.
yeah.
So
But that's so cool. I never got into that. I'm just nerding around. I just test them. I experiment. I like to collect the information, make it available, but I kind of felt like if I start making watercolors, um I have enough hobbies as is. I felt like I need to cap this somewhere. And I like to get paints from the people who make them. And handmade paints are so precious. Like there's such good quality. I have a nice collection of handmade paints from friends, and hopefully yours too.
yeah,
One
I
day.
I I I have a bunch of paints here for you, including some quinacridone gold. So,
Oh my god,
uh,
can't wait.
specifically quinacridone gold deep, which is rarer.
Oh my god.
So,
It's yeah. Um, we will talk about pigments much more, I feel.
yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah,
We,
I
we've
feel
been
more as
we've been going over
yeah.
an hour now.
No, oh yeah.
So we should
Didn't feel like an
probably
hour.
no, it didn't. So we should
Yeah,
probably end
just
this here and have you back on and just nerd out about pigments again.
yeah, just cut out anything weird. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Oh yeah. uh. So yeah. Anyways, people, the links for Lana's stuff is going to be in the description below and pinned in the comments. Check it out. Lana, if you can't tell, is a fantastic person and huge pigment nerd, just like us all. So,
Thanks for having me.
thanks.
Bye.
Bye.